What's a good psychological trick that you use with success most of the times? In an argument, find something to agree on, then push your main point. I have had great success using this method and it always works. Absolutely. My father was a top-level diplomat, ambassador to the UN Security Council, where of course the name of the game is to debate very contentious issues amicably. He very much followed your approach of looking for points of agreement before pushing the harder issues. One thing he was very skilled at is debating in a way that avoided triggering the other person's ego too much. Basically, the polar opposite of most internet debates where people instantly trigger the ego defenses of the other by mocking, calling their points stupid, etc. My dad's theory was, why on earth would you create more obstacles and resistance to your point of view by unnecessarily triggering the ego/fight/fuck you reflex in the other? Because I don't just want them to agree with me, I want them to acknowledge my superiority. Mirroring people, not just in their body movements, but also in their time/language. I only do this if I'm trying to connect with someone, and it seems to work really well. Sometimes on the tube when standing without holding anything on a stable part of the track, I will pretend to randomly wobble and almost grab onto something. Pretty quickly I will see other people grab onto something regardless if they are standing or sitting. I get bored when commuting. Clearly they know this trick and are trying to make you feel comfortable. Just after you see someone check the time, ask them what time it is. They will check again. Well, it changes often, you see. Every 60 seconds, a minute passes in Africa. If someone has to wait for you, instead of saying I'm sorry, say, thanks for your patience. Saying you're sorry admits that you're doing something wrong. Thanking someone for their patience is a compliment. It says that not only that they have patience, but that they're generous enough to give some to you. Yes. You can use this one in a lot of different ways. Sorry about the error versus thank you for bringing that to my attention. Tell someone, if I can make your hand flip over without touching it, will you buy me? Insert whatever, then ask them to put their hand out, and when they do, say no the other way. My friend did this to me the other day. I lost $10 Houston's. That's so awful. I can't imagine how upset you must be. Steel manning. It's the opposite of straw manning. When arguing, if you know you're right, then paraphrase the strongest, most ideal and robust possible version of your opponent's argument, and then argue against that. This builds trust and shows that you really do understand/see their perspective and aren't trying to downplay their ideas. It's disarming, and people tend to agree more when they feel like their opinions have been understood. Tell people what you want instead of hoping they'll read your mind or decode your passive aggression. I work with kids, so I really use social referencing to my advantage. If a kid falls, they look around to adults to see how the adult reacts. If the adult rushed over and starts coddling, the child will usually overreact because they think it's needed. If the adult doesn't seem concerned, the child is quicker to move on. Also, when I was younger, my mom would use a trick on me. She told me that she knew when I was lying because my tongue would turn green. She'd ask me a question, listen to the answer, then ask me to stick out my tongue. If I tried to hide it, she knew I was lying. My parents used to say that our eyes turned green when we were lying. They looked us in the eye to check. It worked for the most part, but I remember my sister failing this check when she was actually in the right. She went ballistic, rightly so, and mum and dad agreed that the green was a reflection of something or other. I told my daughter that she had a blue dot on her forehead when she was lying that only mommy and daddy could see. She would slap her little hand on her forehead before telling me how the marker really got on the wall. Understand instead of memorizing. If you understand something, you will not forget it. I will remember this comment. My therapist gave me the great advice that the word should is terrible for motivation, procrastination. I'm re-saying it far less eloquently, but basically instead of saying you should do the dishes, you should say I will do the dishes, which tricks your brain into doing it. Because should is far less matter of fact, meanwhile I will is very set in stone. It took me a while to do it, but now I barely ever say I should do X, Y, Z. and actually my motivation has gone up. I tell people something similar in relation to writing a resume. Never use passive language in a resume/cover letter. Do not write, "If I was the manager of doohickeys at XYZ company I would implement a code system." Write, "As manager of doohickeys at XYZ company, I will implement a code system." Do not write, "If selected for an in-person interview, I would bring a sample of my system." Write, "I will bring a sample of my system to the in-person interview." I notice that US presidential candidates use the same trick. Even if they are polling at 5%, most of them never say "if I am elected." They say "when I am president, I will do XYZ. I gotta say though, I find that to be presumptuous and annoying. If you want people to like you, in a friendship way, this won't trick people into love. Ask them to do you a quick and easy favor. Most people will say yes to something simple, and help you out, then their brain justifies why they helped you out with "I guess I like him." It works surprisingly well. We like to think we act because of how we feel, but in reality this is often reversed. We often feel things because of how we act. The truth is, we kind of suck at interpreting why we do things and can confuse cause and effect pretty easily. Did you help someone because you like them, or do you like them because you helped them out? Is your heart racing on a date because you're really into the person, or because the date itself is something exciting? If you know this, you can deal with other people better, not just getting them to like you by being in the right situations, but also simply being aware that you shouldn't take negative things personally. If someone is having a really shitty day, don't get too upset with them if they lash out. Also, the book How to Win Friends and Influence People has some pretty good advice that will either seem painfully obvious to you or completely groundbreaking, depending on how you currently interact with people. Thank you so much u/PM_nudes_for_degrading. This really helped me understand some behaviors of the people around me, as well as the behaviors of my own mind. Truly insightful. Convincing someone your idea was their idea. It works 90% of time. Even simply adding to their great idea works. I've turned people completely over to agreeing with me when it has little to do with what they originally thought. I'm not some psychic master, and yes, this is manipulative when you use it maliciously. Edit, Teach me. Well, as a kid, not coming from a good family BTW, I knew my mother wanted to make me the least happy that she could. When I got grounded, she would take away something that she thought I was enjoying at the time, in my case most likely a gaming console or my PC. If she said "you're not allowed your PC for 2 weeks" and I was most entertained by my PC at the time, I would just say "fine, I like my /______ better anyways right now." She took away the other thing I mentioned instead every time. To be fair, this could have backfired and she could have taken away both things, but she didn't like to hear my sisters and I complain that we were bored, so that rarely happened. Briar patching https://tvtropes.org/wiki/wiki.php/main/briar patching. It's old, but it works. If you're walking along the pavement, sidewalk, and there's someone coming straight towards you, you might try and meet their eye in an attempt to exert dominance and make them change off their line. Don't. The correct procedure is not to make eye contact with them at all. Look down at your feet as you walk, and 9 times out of 10 they will move out of your way. In order to exert dominance, walk with your eyes down, then when you're within 10 feet look up directly into their eyes. They will try to look away and move out of your path. I used to use this when I was an insecure youth walking past groups of other lads. If someone is struggling to lift something heavy, you pretend to help while not actually applying any force, like when spotting a weightlifter for example. Most of the time it tricks their brain into now believing they can do it where before they doubted, and they'll power it right up. Belief can be a mighty thing. Or just help them. I do if it looks like they're actually in over their head. I use that trick with my wife all the time when she's doing the bench press, and she'll always launch the bar straight up like an effing machine. It's pretty cool to see in action. I am an occupational therapist with early intervention, which means I do home therapy with the 0 to 3 age group. Sometimes they are preemies or micro-preemies, sometimes they have autism, sometimes language delays, sometimes genetic disorders. Whatever the diagnosis is, it often leaves moms feeling isolated, overwhelmed and incompetent. Whenever I am doing therapy, I will subtly orient the child so that the mom is on the direction that's easiest for the child to turn. And then I sing a song or play a game that I know will make the child really happy, and, right when they laugh or smile, I will say, look, she's looking for you. Look at how much she loves you. I can really see how much she loves you, Mom. It always reinforces the parent-child bond, which almost always leads to a positive feedback loop of smiles and love from mom to child, which hopefully makes mom feel a little more secure and at ease. That's beautiful. I have to ask people to do small favors for you. They'll tend to like you more this way. Benjamin Franklin effect. When arguing, verbally repeat your opponent's position and ask, is this what you mean? Or something similar. Firstly, this makes you understand their point better, but if it's bullshit, it also makes them realize it faster. I tried the first trick when I started a new job to be on good terms with the people I worked with. It didn't go well. Hey, can you do me a favor and hand me that pen next to you? Is your arm broken? Edit, clarifying. Wrong kind of favor. Something that takes a tiny bit of effort that you seemingly can't do yourself. The point is to make them feel needed. Acting confident to convince people you know what you are doing. My boss does this in work daily. That's why he's your boss. Whenever I get upset and realize that I'm spiraling, I start listing things out loud that I'm grateful for. It's very hard to be anxious/depressed/scared when you're thinking about what's gone right for you. Once you get the hang of it, it's easy to make it into a long process to give yourself more positivity time. I'm grateful to have a functioning car. Well, what else about my car am I grateful for? All the awesome CDs I have, my car stereo, songs I like on the radio. Hey, you know gas prices have been lower lately. Well, how do I afford my car? A job I like, a wage I can survive on, co-workers I love, a boss that treats me well. Or maybe I'm grateful for friends and the places we hang out, or the scenery in my area of the state. I can list gratitudes for an hour or more if I need to. It really does the trick, and it gets easier the more I do it. The 5 gifts of Hathor is what the old Egyptians called it. Basically what they would do is look at their left hand and count 5 things they were grateful for. As your hand was something that's always with you, it served as a constant reminder that there are good things in your life. When someone has the hiccups, telling them to prove it to make the hiccups go away. Someone said that to me once. I was confused, but my body took the challenge and hiccuped louder. That's your body showing that you're the alpha there. One of the best ways for cementing your knowledge of something is to teach it to someone else. 10/10. I'm a teacher. I barely knew anything about English grammar after my degree, but I feel like I could hold my own with most grammarians now, years of teaching later. What do you call a modern grammar Nazi? Alt-right. When you need something from someone, explicitly say I need your help before making your request. Most people like to be needed and feel fulfilled when they've helped someone. Starting phone calls with "Did I catch you at a bad time?" Learned this trick from Never Split the Difference. The author is a former FBI hostage negotiator. Most people start conversations with "Hey, do you have a minute to talk?" which makes people defensive. For what reason? Why with you? Talk about what? Etc. Getting people to say no is a key factor that allows them to open up by saying no, of course not, I'm not doing much anyways. Definitely helps when calling, especially when negotiating or work is involved. My dad used to ask a question like that, or "Are you busy?" etc. until I told him if I was busy, I wouldn't have answered the phone. Now when he calls, we just start talking. When I'm nervous, I convince myself it's excitement. The heart racing, the racing thoughts, the alertness, I tell myself it's all energy, pumping myself up to confront a challenge. But it is Cunningham's law. Say something slightly wrong, and you'll almost always find someone desperate to correct you, and do the work for you. Works great on Reddit when you get the source. Squawks. Finding someone desperate on Reddit is like finding a quarter in a bucket full of quarters, lol. If my kids are giving me a hard time about eating something, I tell them it's okay, they're probably not big enough yet, then they eat it to prove me wrong. That's exactly how I got my kids to use cocaine. r/holdup https://www.reddit.com/r/holdup/. Nodding my head yes or no while I'm asking a question to encourage the answer I want. It's something I've done forever and honestly don't realize when I'm doing it. My husband pointed it out to me, and also pointed out that rarely do people seem to notice because I do it subtly and naturally, and that it often seems to work. I use this a lot as a server and bartender. Also, I always nod along with the person at the table who wants to get an appetizer or another round. Ask someone what color is your shirt? Before rock paper scissors and they'll do scissors. I just tried this on my 12-year-old sister. She picked paper, and then said, "Did you want me to do scissors?" Because I was going to, but then changed my mind. Strangely enough, when I used this tactic on my brother, he pulled out the scissors. But when I did it to my mom, she pulled out the paper. I feel like the pattern is this: when asked the question, their initial response is scissors. Then second is paper. If possible, collect the urine of people you interact with on a professional basis. The insight you can gain into their personality is invaluable when you send it away for analysis. For example, anxious people tend to shed magnesium in their effluents at a surprising rate, and that's just for starters. Imagine if you knew who at work was a secret opium addict. It could mean the only thing standing between you and a promotion was 6 pennyweight of Chinese molasses. Excuse me, what the fuck? I'm sorry, I obviously overlooked the fact that not everyone can afford the expense of regular laboratory testing. Unfortunately, the only test you can do yourself, that I can think of anyway, is to see if they have type 2 diabetes. That is to say, you take a sip and see if it tastes like birthday cake.